former Attorney General Bill Barr ripped into the Justice Department for releasing a pretty chilling note allegedly authored by suspected would-be Trump assassin Ryan Wesley. That note seemingly revealed an intention to assassinate the former president and offered a $150,000 bounty on him. Prosecutors had included this in a public court filing Monday in a motion for a pretrial detention. Barr bashed this decision. He said it was rash. He said he was dumbfounded by it and that it risks inciting potential violence in the future. Barr argued that prosecutors should have moved to keep that note redacted instead. He was certainly not alone in that criticism. There were a number of others who raised concerns about why prosecutors released that note, given the potential risks of inspiring copycats. On the flip side of this, of course, one could argue that if prosecutors kept this hidden and then it got leaked out later on in the future, there might have been outrage and backlash against that, because this seems like pretty critical evidence about what Routh's motivations were here. But Barr's voice is pretty significant in all this because he previously ran the Justice Department under George H.W. Bush and Donald Trump. Later had a falling out with Trump, of course, but his voice is pretty prominent in legal circles nonetheless. I think what's also important to remember here is that prosecutors initially had 2 charges against Routh. They've since upped it, but initially the 2 charges against Routh were for illegal possession of a firearm, despite his history as a convicted felon, and for the obliterated serial number on the weapon. And there had been criticism of that, including for Trump, who said that that was a slap on the wrist by prosecutors against Routh here, and there was controversy over that. But one of the complicating factors in this case is that law enforcement says that they don't have evidence that Routh fired shots when he was on Trump's golf course. And so that poses complications when trying to prosecute the case against him. But this letter seemingly gives significant evidence of intent here to take Donald Trump's life. And we've seen later on in this week that prosecutors have since upped the charges against Routh, going after him for an alleged assassination attempt. So it seemed like this was pretty key evidence in that. And right now, the judge ultimately sided with prosecutors and agreed to have Routh held without bail.